All right. I think that's working. Hey, how's it going? Lee Hayward here with the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chat. I think there's a smudge on my lens there. Just give me a second. I got to get a tissue or something to wipe that lens. It looks like it's smudgy. Got a towel here. I'll wipe it with that. Let me see. Smudge, smudge. Smudge, smudge. I don't know if that made any difference. Let me see. Yeah, maybe a little better. Hopefully. There. Yeah, it's like a fingerprint smudge because it's right on the top of the screen, where you close and open the lid or open the screen. It's fingertip smudge. That's what it was. So I had to wipe my fingerprint smudge off the screen there, off the camera lens. So, hey, how's it going? Back again for another live video Q&A on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel. And the way these video chats work is I'm going to be hanging out and shooting the breeze and answering any questions or topics of discussion that you may have related to fitness and nutrition, muscle building, workouts, whatever it is, building muscle, losing fat, eating strategies. Feel free to type those questions and topics of discussion into the chat window there to the side, and I'll do the best that I can to help you out over the course of our video chat today. And let's see, first, who's we got joining in? We got Lee joining in from over in Europe, over in the UK, I believe it is. And he says loud and clear. Appreciate that. Thank you. I always want to make sure that it is coming through loud and clear. And Lee's a regular to the video chats, and he's letting me know. All right. So again, if you're new, I want to welcome you. It's always nice to have new people joining in. And if you're a regular, I want to welcome you back. It's always nice to have the regulars coming back and joining in. And we do have a lot of regulars who've been following these video chats, following my YouTube channel for, in some cases, several years, in some cases, over a decade or more. And that's really cool. So for those of you who've been hanging through the long term, I really respect it and appreciate the support. And I'm glad that you keep coming back. All right, so it's nice to see a faithful following like that. It really helps make a big difference. So I'm glad that you enjoy these video chats. And hopefully we'll have a good one today. So again, I'm going to be hanging out here for the next hour-ish. I think they usually stretch into that hour range, depending on how chatty I am and how many questions that you guys have that you want to discuss. So again, if you do have any questions or topics of discussion, type them into the chat window and we'll get this show underway. And also let me know who's tuning in. Let me know where you're tuning in from. So if you're joining in, let me know what part of the world, what time it is in your local area, just kind of get an idea of where people are tuning in from. Because I know with this, we have an international audience. I mean, that's the cool thing about the internet. There is no right or wrong time. Like any time's a good time for somebody. So, I mean, we have an international audience and it's always cool. So we got Gabriel's joining in, and he is over in Germany at late in the evening. It's 11 p.m. over there. All right. So hopefully we'll make it worth your while. Join in over there in the late hours. I got to be honest. By 11 p.m., I'm usually in bed by then, right? Very rare that I'm up past 11 p.m. these days. When I was younger, I used to be a bit more of a night owl, but now that I'm older, my internal clock is changing. And I was actually having a call with one of my coaching students today, and we were discussing this because we were talking about the optimal workout times. Like, should you work out in the morning? Should you work out in the afternoon? Should you work out in the evening? And when it comes to workout times, it really doesn't matter when you do it, as long as you do it. Right? And I've in the past, I've always been the evening night owl, if you will. Like I used to sleep in, get up late, stay up late, and work out late. And that worked really well for me. For several years, that worked really well for me. It was just like I was functioning well. It worked well with the schedule. I went to the gym, and you work out late at night. There's very few people there. The gym that I was training at was a 24-hour facility, so it worked out great. And a lot of my old YouTube videos, like back in the heyday of the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel, for those of you who've been following for a while, like in the late 2000s, around that 2000, from say 2008 onwards, right? It's from 2008 up to around 2012, that range. Most of those videos were made, late at night. Like sometimes I'd be in the gym at 11 or 12 midnight shooting videos because the gym was basically empty and it worked really well. So I get my workout in, be able to shoot my videos, and basically like having a private gym. And I know like a lot of times you watch some of those older videos, people would comment, "There's like, man, like you must own the facility because you got, it's shut down. You got a private gym all to yourself." I said, "No, it's just I'm working out in a 24-hour gym late at night," and it worked really well. I made some great gains, competed, got in my best shape doing late night workouts. But nowadays, with the young one, got Harvey. I mean, and obviously he's going to school now. Next week he starts back. We can't do that anymore. So since he came along, my schedule has changed and it kind of matches his. So shortly after we get Harvey to bed, I'm gone to bed, and then I'm usually waking up early in the morning. And my default alarm clock these days is I'm waking up around 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning without an alarm clock. That's my default. Like I'm just up, awake, ready to start the day, 5 a.m. usually, and no alarm clock needed. Right? It's just crazy how it works that way. So I've totally shifted my internal clock, if you will, over the last several years, and it's working for me. So now I'm into more morning workouts, getting it done earlier in the day, and that tends to work. But like I say, when it comes to workout time, whatever time works for you, whether it's in the morning, in the evening, the most important thing is that you get it done. All right, so let's get this thing on their way. Let's see what else we got there. Have we got any questions coming through? Gabriel's asking, which 4 back exercises would you do in a typical pull workout when your back is your weaknesses? Okay, so want some ideas for exercises for the back, and 4 is his magic number. One thing that I've kind of gotten into, and I'll just share this quickly. I'm more of a fan of more frequent workouts these days. And what I mean by that is instead of having chest day, back day, leg day, arm day, shoulder day, body part splits, I like to do total body workouts. And I've mentioned this several times. And there's a lot of benefit to total body workouts in that you get to hit your major muscle groups frequently. And that's what I'm currently doing now. And I have been for several years. And that's something that you may want to look into, especially when you want to prioritize body parts, is you can do more frequent workouts for those body parts. And how it works is instead of doing 4 exercises, maybe we would do a couple exercises, especially if it's something you want to prioritize, but do it more frequently throughout the week. So you help to stimulate the muscle, let it rest, recover, grow, stimulate it, rest, recover, grow, and just speed up that process versus going in there and annihilating the muscle in a single workout. And then sometimes it's a bit of overkill, right? Like sometimes it's too much stimulation, and you don't need that much, right? You just need to do enough to stimulate growth, right? Just enough. And kind of give you an analogy of how that works. Think of trying to get a suntan. Like, are you better off going out there and like lying in the sun for like 3 hours on one day and burn yourself to a crisp? Or are you better off going out and just say like getting 20 minutes of sun every single day? Like 20 minutes of sun every single day will be enough to stimulate the response so that you start to get a suntan, but you're not getting to the point where you're burning, right? You're not overdoing it. It's not overkill. It's not overstimulation. Same idea applies when you're trying to build your body. Sometimes shorter, more frequent sessions allow you to get the stimulation, rest, recover, grow, and then you get back in there quicker to get the stimulation again, rest, recover, grow, and helps to speed up the process versus going in there and just annihilating that body part, doing way too much in a single session. And then it actually slows down the recovery process because now not only have you done a lot of damage in that one workout, very often overkill, but it takes a lot longer to recover from it. The risk of injury is much higher. The risk of repetitive movement strain is much higher. The tendon and ligament strain is much higher. Like there's a lot of drawbacks to that. So I like shorter, more frequent sessions, stimulate, rest, recover, grow, stimulate, rest, recover, grow. So that's something that you can certainly do for any muscle group, but especially if you have a weak area that you want to prioritize. So in your case with back workouts, you could do that. You could space it out. I mean, let's just say you're going to the gym 4 days a week. Like you could literally do a different back exercise every day you go to the gym. If you want to hit 4 exercises, like you could do a different one of those exercises every day so that you are hitting your back frequently and allowing it to rest, recover, and grow. And some of my favorite back exercises that I would incorporate, you want to focus on hitting all the different angles. So some sort of overhead pull, some sort of horizontal pull. You want to do some sort of deadlift or hinging exercise. You want to do all these different movements. Another one that I'm a big fan of as well is a pullover type of movement to stretch out the lats. So if I were looking at an overall workout, probably something along the lines of a lat pull down or a pull up, either or. If you're strong enough to do pull ups with good form, then hey, by all means, do them. If not, then you can do lat pull downs, and that's a great exercise to do. And really focus on good quality movement, meaning full stretch, full peak contraction, feeling the muscles work. Another one you want to do is some sort of rowing exercise. And there's all kinds, like you can do, whether it's free weights, a barbell row or a dumbbell row, all kinds of different rowing machines available at most gyms these days. Pick a rowing exercise that allows you to get a really good peak contraction in the back. And again, what you want to focus on is squeezing and stretching with each repetition. One of the biggest problems people come into with the back is heaving and jerking, lifting too much weight, and just kind of focusing on moving the weight instead of contracting the muscle. And to kind of give you an idea what I'm talking about here, think of when you're trying to pull start a lawnmower or any engine. Like if you've got a snowmobile that you with like an older one with a pull cord, or a lawnmower with a pull cord, or a chainsaw or something with a pull cord. Like technically that's a rowing exercise, but you don't feel an isolated muscle contraction in your back when you're trying to pull start a lawnmower or pull start anything with a pull cord. It's just fast, jerky, explosive, and it's just simply just trying to like get that thing going. And there's no strict isolation there. Whereas if you're doing a dumbbell row or a machine row, like you want to slowly contract it, like you want to maintain control where you squeeze, contract, hold that peak contraction, and then slowly return it to the starting position. Let the muscles stretch out when arms are extended. Feel the stretch in the lats. Squeeze it all the way back. Pull your elbows and shoulder blades back together behind you. Get that full retraction in the scapula. Squeeze and contract the muscles of your back. Feel the peak contraction. Hold that for a second and really get that mind-muscle connection. And doing that, like even if you did the exact same exercises or same workout you're doing now, but you just focus on the quality of those exercises and actually getting a mind-muscle connection, you would see better results, pretty much guaranteed. Because again, I see a lot of times people are just trying to move the weight from point A to point B. And again, it's almost like, again, the analogy of pull start in a lawnmower, right? You're not trying to contract your back there. You're just trying to get that cord out as fast as you can, right? Heave it over, heave and jerk, momentum, whatever, it doesn't matter. So you don't want to take that analogy or that type of movement to the gym, right? You want to use a totally different movement and focus on squeezing the muscles, not just simply moving the weight from point A to point B. So that's a big one. So exercises like a lat pull down, some sort of row, whether it's a machine row or a free weight row. A deadlift is a great exercise to do, but again, focusing on quality, not just simply moving the weight. Another one that I'm a big fan of when it comes to the back, it's specifically more of a lower back exercise, is the hyperextension. This is an exercise, a lot of people neglect it, but I'm a huge fan of it. And I find that when I do a lot of hyperextensions to strengthen the spinal erectors, the glutes, the hamstrings, that whole hinging of the posterior chain, that's an amazing exercise to help not only with movement and mobility, but it helps to prevent injury and makes you feel so much more solid when you're doing other exercises. So it's a great one to do. Other ones that I'm a big fan of, I mentioned already, the pullover. Like at the gym that I train at, we've got an old school Nautilus pullover machine, which I love. That's a cool machine. It was kind of similar to the old one that Dorian Yates used to use in his, blood and guts training videos. For those of you who've been around for a while, remember the old VHS tape of Dorian Yates doing the blood and guts training. If not, you can actually YouTube search it because all that footage is on YouTube now these days. But he had the old Nautilus pullover machine, which was an amazing exercise because, again, it works through that full range of motion where you fully stretch out, and you get a good peak contraction. So it helps to take the lats through a full range of motion. And it's a unique exercise where the arms are not involved, but it's just pure lat, right? Lat and serratus and those muscles come into play. So it's a great exercise to just hit the muscles from a unique position that they normally don't get worked with a lot of other exercises. Now, if you don't have a pullover machine, you can duplicate that type of movement with free weights and cables. Like you can do a dumbbell pullover or a barbell pullover to really emphasize the stretch And to emphasize the peak contraction, you could do a cable pull down, like a straight arm cable pull down or pull over. Basically, you just take a high pulley cable, like almost like you would for a tricep uh, extension. You know, like especially if you have a rope, like a tricep extension rope. But instead of doing tricep extensions or tricep press downs, you basically just keep your arm straight and do like a straight arm pull down or pull over using the cable. And that gives you a really good peak contraction to work those lats in that unique position to kind of simulate the movement pattern that you get from the pullover machine. So those are some that I would definitely recommend. But the thing that's going to make or break it is not so much the exercises and the movements, but the way that you do them. You know, slowing down the tempo, feeling that peak contraction, you know, when you're squeezing it all the way back, and then feeling the stretch. I always think of stretch and squeeze with each repetition. And if you do that, you'll make much better progress. All right, what else we got there? Tony's just sponsored the chat. Much appreciated, Tony. Thank you for your support. And as soon as you did that, your question popped to the top of the list. So if you want to get peak or top priority, that's one way to do it. And you can sponsor the chat, and it's much appreciated. So Tony's got a question there or comments. He's saying, I'm following your full body workout video where I use machines. I need to eat more to get back fully into it. And that is so true, in meaning that like the workouts are one thing, but you need to follow it up with proper nutrition, right? Like they go hand in hand. And this actually is, I'm glad that you brought this topic up because it's something that I was actually doing some lessons with my coaching students recently talking about this. A lot of people, especially when they're either new to fitness and nutrition, new to the gym, new to working out, they wonder, like, what's more important, diet or exercise, right? I mean, even some of the more experienced people probably wonder this too, like, what's more important, diet or exercise? And if you're given the choice to focus on just one or the other, right? I mean, obviously both are important, right? Like that's a given. Duh. But if you're going to prioritize one or the other, I would emphasize the exercise first. And the reason for that is because it builds the habits into your routine. Because you're going to eat anyway. Now, it might not always be the healthiest foods, but you're going to eat, right? Everybody eats. But not everybody exercises. So the biggest habit and lifestyle change is the exercise from a beginner novice point of view, right? You need to make time for that, schedule that into your routine, and make it a habit of showing up to the gym consistently. So that's the biggest hurdle for a lot of people. The eating, that's a much smaller change because, again, you're eating anyway. It's not like you have to make more time to eat or carve out time. Like everybody eats, right? Most people have a breakfast, lunch, and a dinner, or at least you have a lifestyle where you can schedule such a thing in, right? Like you can eat before you go to work. Chances are, if you work at a normal job, there's a lunch break. So you can have your lunch, and then of course after work, then there's time to come home and have dinner. Like that's pretty standard, universal across the board. So you don't have to make time to eat, right? Our modern day society already has time carved out in our schedules to eat. It's just what do you eat during those times that you need to change. But we don't have time carved out for exercise. That's not a habit for most people. So if you're going to focus on diet or exercise, especially in the start, focus on the exercise first. Nail that habit, right? If you want to break it down to its most simplest things, focus on that first. And then the cool thing about it is once you have that in place, automatically you're going to want to follow it up with better eating habits because now you know that, hey, if I eat better, I'm going to get better results with my workouts. Just like Tony mentioned there, like he's following the workouts. Now he needs to focus on the nutrition to maximize the workouts, right? It's just like if you have a high performance sports car, just the fact that you have a high performance sports car, now all of a sudden you're going to want to put high octane gas into that car. You're going to want to put premium oil into that car, and like you're not just going to want to put junk into it. Like if you got an old junk clunker car, you don't care what you put into it, right? You're going to put in the low octane gas. You're going to, whatever the cheapest oil that's on special, that's what you're going to get. Like you don't care because it's just an old clunker, right? There's no emotional attachment to it. You don't care. But if you get a nice high performance sports car, now you want to put premium fuel into it. You want to put premium oil into it, right? You want to you want to take care of the thing. Same thing when it comes to your body. Like once you start exercising, once you start treating it better, then you're going to want to start fueling it better. So focus on the exercise habit first, and then that'll automatically help to want to fuel it better as well. And then that helps to create the motivation to make better food choices. All right, what else we got there? We got Platinum Gaming joining in. Says, I've been making good gains on the squats. I've got all the way up to doing 335 for 5x5, which is very respectable. Great job. Says, the last couple of weeks, ever since I started running, I can't squat anymore. Even 315 feels heavy. Any advice? That makes a lot of sense. If you haven't been running and you built up to your 335 without doing running, and now all of a sudden you're doing running, that's a lot of extra stimulation on the legs, a lot of extra, jarring on the joints. Like, running is a hard exercise. And I know this is, I'm kind of like twisting your question or whatever around, but why are you running? Like seriously, why are you running? Is there something specific that you need to run for or want to run for? Like, because from a practical point of view, I'm not a big fan of running for a lot of guys, especially if you're a bigger guy. Now, for full transparency, those of you who are runners, you enjoy running, you've been doing it for years, and you have no problem with it, you enjoy it and you like it and whatever, you're getting good results from it, keep doing it, right? I'm not here to try and discourage anybody who's got a healthy habit of running already built into their routine. But if you're taking it up for the first time, why are you taking it up? Like, why run? If it's because, hey, I want to burn some body fat, I want to lean out, and I want to get in better shape, there's a lot of better cardio options out there than running. Things that are easier on the body, lower impact, less risk of injury, less risk of joint pain. Because let's face it, running, every time you take a stride and run, it's like 6 times your body weight on every impact, right? And you're doing that over and over and over and over again for however many miles you're running for. Like, it's a lot of jarring on the joints. And very often you'll feel it in the knees and the ankles and the shins and then everywhere else, especially when you're new to it. And if you've got a lot of extra weight on, it just compounds even more. So you got to ask yourself, like, why are you doing it? If you're just looking for a cardio alternative for burning fat, how about walking? How about cycling? How about using cardio machines? How about swimming? Like, there's a lot of other options out there besides running. And I do a lot of cardio. Like, that's my priority with my training now. Like, in fact, I do more cardio these days than I do weight training, but I'm not running. My number one form of cardio is cycling. I love it. I mean, it's fun. I mean, I just do a lot of it. I mean, I even compete in some cycling races and sportif events and stuff like that. I mean, I do a lot of it. This past year has been a big year for me for cycling, but I'm not a runner. So my cardio options, I do cycling's priority number one. Other than that, getting outside and walking is another option. Walking's not as hard as running because you don't have the same level of impact. Like, you always got one foot on the ground, so you're not coming down with your full body weight when you're airborne, like when you are running, right? Like, in between strides, when both feet are off the ground, and each time you hit, like, it's literally 6 times your body weight is what it accounts to. So it accumulates pretty rapidly, that level of impact on the joints. Other options, cardio machines at the gym, right? Like, whatever they have available, from an elliptical to a stepper to a treadmill to a bike to a rower to a whatever you got. Like, every gym's got their own line of cardio machines. Take advantage of that. And those are some good options. So that's what I would recommend, because it's not going to beat up your joints as much. That's what I'm thinking is the biggest thing. Not just the extra work volume and stress you're placing on your muscles where your body has to adapt to it, but it's the extra strain on the joints. And when your joints are not 100%, meaning like they're not fully rested and recovered and there's some inflammation or strain, that's going to hinder your strength big time. Like, if you've got sore knees or hips are bothering you, or your elbows are bothering you, or any joints are bothering you, you're not going to be able to lift as much. Like, if your shoulders and elbows are hurting, you ain't hitting a 1 rep max bench press. If your knees are bothering you, you're not going to hit a personal best in the squat. Like, that's probably what the biggest issue is the extra strain on your joints from adding running into your routine. So you need to find a way to balance that out. Now, With that being said, as your body accommodates to the extra stress and you build up your work capacity, you should be able to get back to your previous level of strength. But in this transition phase, your body has to adapt to the new training stimulus. And in doing so, you'll probably see a drop in certain areas. Obviously, you have. So, I mean, you have to adapt. And then in the adaptation process, your body will respond and you'll be able to grow and build up stronger. But it's almost like you got to take one step back in order to take two steps forward. That's what you're going through right now. But anyway, that's my advice on that. I mean, personally, I would look for a lower impact form of cardio if that's your main focus. All right. Dario is asking any thoughts on limiting salt intake for heart health? Don't do it. Salt is a misunderstood nutrient. It really is. A lot of mainstream, health and fitness media put salt in the bad guy category, but salt is essential. Like there's more risk of health consequences from too little salt than there is from too much. Like if you have too much salt, like your body will excrete it. Like your body will use what it needs and excrete the rest. So as long as you're drinking enough water for your body to flush it out, then you can't have too much salt in your system. It'll get flushed out in your urine. It'll get sweat out in your sweat. Your body will get rid of the salt, assuming everything is functioning normal. Your kidneys and everything are functioning normal. I mean, obviously, if you have some sort of pre-existing problems where your body can't function properly, then that's different. But for a normal human being, your body will use what it needs and flush out the rest. But if you have too little salt, you can suffer some big issues. I mean, because salt is an electrolyte, like it's needed for your body to function properly. For muscle contractions, for heart health and contractions and everything else. Like you need salt in your system. You need the sodium there. If you don't have enough of it, or if you try to have a zero sodium diet, like you could literally die from that. Like that's how serious it is. Like you need salt. It's not the bad guy. So what the big thing is, it's not so much limiting salt, it's making sure that you're consuming enough water so that your body can utilize what it needs, flush it through the system, and then if there is any excess, it can flush it out of the system. And for people who are active, working out, be that weight training or cardio or sports or activities, you need more salt, not less, because you're sweating. And if you're sweating a lot, like sweat, you're losing all those electrolytes, you're losing salt. And if you're like most people, we've probably had a very hot summer. Everyone that I talk to, the general consensus, even like right across the board, is people saying, yeah, hey, we've had a hotter than normal summer. I don't know, call it global warming or whatever. But like this summer for us here in Newfoundland has been a record summer. Like I can't remember ever having a summer this hot. And it's just crazy. The temperatures are off the charts, right? Like it's been the hottest summer ever. And sweating a lot. Like I sweat a ton, and to compensate for that, I'm drinking more water and I'm adding more salt to my diet. So I will purposely put salt on my food. When I'm going to the gym, I put salt in my water bottle. Like I'll mix up amino acids, I'll mix up salt, and I'll take that with me to the gym. When I'm going out for my bike rides, I'll purposely put salt and amino acids and electrolyte mix in my water bottle. So like I'm purposely replacing what I'm losing. Because I'm sweating so darn much, I need more of it, not less. So I'm the complete opposite. I don't recommend limiting it. I'd actually recommend increasing it for a lot of people, especially if you're very active. And how you would know this, a sure sign that you probably need to increase more salt, if you ever feel muscle cramps, that's a definite sign that you need to have more salt in your diet, usually. I mean, like there are other causes of potential muscle cramps, but for a lot of people, if you're cramping up, like getting cramps in your calves, or sometimes you're doing ab crunches and your abs just seem to lock up, especially, when you're in the gym, you're training hard. If you're getting cramps, very often it's an electrolyte imbalance, and increasing your salt can help with that. Another one, if you ever feel like weak or dizzy sometimes when you're out training, like a lot of people think, oh, maybe it's low blood sugar and this and that, which it sometimes can be, but it can also be low sodium, right? Like making sure that you have adequate sodium in your system is huge, especially for people who are very active. And the more active you are, the more important this is. So like it's important for people who do weight training, but if you do like long distance endurance training, it's exponentially more important, because the longer you're training, the more you're sweating, the more you're burning, the more important this is. What else we got there? How do I strengthen a weaker arm? I'm right-handed. That's from Andrew, I believe. Uh, how do you strengthen a weaker arm? Well, if you're right-handed and you're stronger in your right hand, chances are you're always going to be stronger in your right hand. Like that's the way it is. Chances are you're always going to be that way because that's your dominant side. So there, there's really not a whole lot you can change with that, and that's normal. That's kind of universal across the board, right? Everybody's usually stronger in one side than the other. But you can minimize the imbalances by how you structure your workouts. And just training in general will help with this because when you're training, you're working both sides. So that will help to develop the weaker side. But you can also kind of prioritize this by the exercise selection you'd use. So doing more dumbbell or single limb exercises. So like when you're lifting a barbell, for example, or a machine that balances the weight equally, when you press or pull, you may be subconsciously exerting a little bit more force with your stronger side than the other. Now, I mean, it's not going to be major, but it could be slightly more. Like you could be exerting 60% effort with the right side and 40% effort with the left and not really know it. And the weight could stay balanced, especially if it's a machine exercise where, like a Smith machine or some sort of machine where the handles move together, right? And there's even if you did lifted it with one arm, you'd still lift the machine. So in those situations, you could subconsciously be lifting more weight with your dominant side. So a dumbbell or a machine that uses unilateral movements, such as like a hammer strength machine or cable machines with handles for each side, where the weights are independent, meaning like you can press with your right hand and then you can press with your left, like it's both independent. That'll help because again, you're forcing the left and right sides to handle an equal workload. So the more often you can incorporate those exercises into your routine, the better, especially for balancing it out and building symmetry. And it's not just your arm exercises, it's not just biceps and triceps, like everything, your bench presses, your shoulder presses, your rows, like anything where you're pressing and pulling and using your upper body. If you can incorporate more single limb exercises or exercises that work each limb independently, that will definitely help to create more balance over time. Now, it's not going to be instantaneous. It's not like you're going to do this for a month and have a perfectly balanced and symmetrical physique. But over the course of several months, even over the course of several years, you could minimize the imbalance so that you're more evenly strength distributed between the left and right sides. But more often than not, you're always going to have it. Like even in my case, I'm stronger in my right side than I am in my left. And it's always going to be that way. It's always has been that way and it always will be that way. And even for the top pros, like we're always our own worst critic and we're looking at our own physiques and everything else. But you look at like some of the top pros, like prime example, you do a search for Arnold Schwarzenegger front double bicep. Like just open up Google after this video chat. Don't do it now. Wait till after and type in Arnold Schwarzenegger front double bicep. And you look at his right bicep compared to his left bicep. His right is way bigger, more defined than his left. Like even the great Arnold, right? Who's been, training for years and years and years, done it all. Even he has muscle imbalances. One side is bigger and stronger than the other. Another example, Jay Cutler, right? Former Mr. Olympia Jay Cutler, same thing. You do a search and look at Jay Cutler's front double bicep. In his case, I believe his left arm is actually bigger than his right. I could be wrong on that, but I think I'm right. His left is bigger than his right. And not only that, he even has one leg that's bigger than the other leg. Like it's very noticeable when you see him doing like front double bicep and just standing square on, you can see one arm's bigger than the other, one leg's bigger than the other. So even guys at the top of the game, the genetically elite, the best of the best in the entire world, even they have muscle imbalances. So if the best of the best have muscle imbalances, the average Joe like you and me, we're going to have muscle imbalances too. So don't get too hung up on it, but just take some positive action to try and correct it over time. And the single limb exercises and working movements that force both the left and right sides to handle an equal workload will definitely help. If you want some specific exercises and workouts for this, I actually made a playlist a few years ago, but it's a good one. It's up on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel. Just open up the playlist tab, and it's called Single Limb Workouts. And there's a whole training series covering exercises and workouts for all your major muscle groups utilizing single limb movements. So it's chest workouts utilizing single limb exercises, back workouts utilizing single limb, legs, arms, shoulders, everything single limb workouts. So this is like, if you really want to prioritize this, that's what you could follow for the next, say, 6 to 12 weeks to really like get a jump start on it. And then afterwards you can kind of piggyback and take some of those movements and incorporate them into your regular workout routine so that you help to minimize that imbalance over time. All right, have a sip of water and we'll continue on. AJ saying he didn't get a notification. Well, that's too bad. That's not my problem. That's YouTube's problem. So I have no idea why they didn't send out a notification when this went live. But again, that's I don't personally send them out. Like when these lives go, like YouTube sends out a notification to subscribers saying, hey, Lee Hayward's going live. And I also post it up on my Facebook page as well, just to let people know. But if the notifications don't get sent out, that's something on YouTube's end. That's not me, because I physically don't do it myself. That's just happens automatically. When you go live, YouTube sends out the notification. Let's see. Wow, your answer really opened my eyes, Lee. I see it crystal clear now. Thank you. And that's from Gabriel. Well, you're welcome. Glad to help. And when it comes to these questions and answers, like I try my best to give a half-assed genuine answer, if you will. Like I shouldn't say half-ass, a genuine answer. I don't want to give a half-ass answer. That's what I'm saying. Because I've seen video chats, even some of my colleagues. I'm not going to mention names, but I've seen Q&As and video chats and stuff like that from some of my colleagues and stuff. And like they just want to get through as many as they can. So like someone will ask a question, they'll go yes or no answers. I mean, like, that's not really helping. You need to elaborate on things and share some examples, and so people get a bigger picture of what the heck's going on here. Tony is jumping in again saying 29, I love your content and no BS, and I love how you don't say abs in 30 days. Appreciate it, Tony. Much respect, and thank you for your support. Very kind. All right, moving on. What else we got there? Robert's joining in. He says, I just started a dumbbell incline bench row. Seems like a good thing. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Doing dumbbell rows, lying belly down on an incline bench or even a high flat bench, but most benches are not high enough when they're set in the flat position, so you need to incline them to get adequate range of motion. But that is a great exercise, and it's a chest supported row with free weights. Basically, I've utilized that exercise, and I've had some workout videos like in my dumbbell workout video. I've shown that exercise because that's one of my playlists that I made a while back. Workout playlist is a whole complete body part split routine showing like chest, back, legs, arms, shoulders, blah blah blah, everything using only dumbbell exercises. And in that one, we did cover the dumbbell row on an incline bench. And I like that movement because it's such a strict exercise. Like when you're lying down and your chest is supported, there's no heaving or momentum or jerking or anything like that. It's a very strict, isolated row. So to get back to the first question, which was Gabriel asking about the back exercises, that's one that you could use. It's a dumbbell row lying on the incline bench. Right? You can certainly give that a try. And it's a very strict, isolated exercise. Like you're not going to handle a lot of weight, but you're really going to feel the muscles activate. And that's the most important thing. Like from a muscle building point of view, we use the weights as a tool to build the muscles. From a strength and powerlifting strongman point of view, you use the muscles as a means to move weight. Like even though both sports you're lifting weights, you're doing it with an entirely different focus. Like the powerlifter, the weightlifter, the strongman, they just want to move as much weight as possible. And they're going to adjust their training and their form and their exercise technique to do so, to move as much weight as possible. A bodybuilder or someone who's just training to build their body. When I say bodybuilder, I don't always mean someone who's going to put on a pair of Speedos and get on stage and greased up and pose. Like I'm not talking about competitive bodybuilding. I mean, working out to build your body. That's true bodybuilding, right? If your goal is to do that, right, is just to get in better shape, build muscle, burn fat, and improve yourself, you're using the weights as a tool to build your body. So it's a different mindset and a different approach. It's not just simply trying to lift as much as you physically can. So we're using the weights as tools to build the body, not the body as a means to just move as much weight, right? So sometimes you actually need to lighten up the weight in order to get more muscle activation and help to stimulate more hypertrophy in that muscle. So it's a different mindset, different approach. Okay, let's see what else we got. John is asking, can using hand grippers cause stiffness in the inner or outer elbow? Basically, if you're getting stiffness in the inner or outer elbow, chances are that's elbow tendonitis. If it's in the outer elbow, it's usually tennis elbow, right? It's a form of tendonitis that's very common amongst tennis players, but you don't have to play tennis to get it. You just need to do repetitive movements to inflame that tendonitis. If it's on the inner, it's usually referred to as golfer's elbow because, again, that's a common injury amongst golfers, but you don't have to play tennis or golf to experience these. I've had both, and I never played tennis or golf. But yes, hand grippers or any repetitive movements that you're doing can cause strain in those areas. And usually when you get inflammation like that, it's probably because you're doing too much too soon. And I know in John's case, he just recently got the grippers and everything else. So you probably fell into the trap of overzealous, over eager to train them, and you probably ended up doing too much too soon. So like you need to build it up gradually. So my advice, slack off on the volume and the intensity of your gripper workouts. Like just give yourself more rest days in between. And when you do go back to training them, like take a few days off initially, let it rest and recover. But when you do go back to training them, lift within your pain threshold. So as soon as it starts to feel any aggravation, stop. Like think of shorter, more frequent workouts, kind of like what I mentioned earlier. Instead of going in there and just training the crap out of the hand grippers and doing too much too soon, short, frequent workouts where you just stimulate, rest, recover, grow, stimulate, rest, recover, grow. And like even back when I was really prioritizing hand grippers, that's how I did it. Like my hand gripper workouts would last like 5 minutes max. Like it wasn't a long time. Like after a workout, I would do 5 minutes of some dedicated grip training. That was it, and just did that maybe 2 or 3 times a week. And the short little frequent workouts, there's a little burst of exercise, stimulate, rest, recover, grow, stimulate, rest, recover, grow. And that helps to alleviate a lot of that potential downsides of doing too much too soon, which is probably what you're doing. But yes, that is a common injury or issue that you deal with anytime you start a new movement. You can certainly get some elbow and tendonitis issues. What else we got there? All right. Got a question there from Josh. Not sure if it's a legit question or not, but I don't have any experience with it. For those of you who are watching this right now, I'm just going to pass on it because I really don't have any experience with that. So I'm going to move on. You follow your doctor's advice on that one. Neil's joining in. He says, "What a wonderful power rack you have." Thank you. It's it's one that I've had for a while, and it's honestly, I don't use this a lot. I got to be totally transparent and honest. Like I've got my home gym here, but I don't use it a whole lot. I go to the public gym most of the time, but I do have this as kind of like the backup, right? If the world shuts down due to a pandemic, hey, I'm all set because I got a fully equipped gym in my basement. But I rarely use this because I like to get out to the public gym and work out there more often than not. So this is kind of like plan B, right? When the gym is closed or for whatever reason I can't get to the gym, then I always got a backup. But if possible, I like to get to the gym. I just like the environment, the atmosphere, the energy, the quality of the equipment, right? And just like that. So I don't do a lot of workouts here in my basement. What else we got there? I've learned that wall angels help you fix your posture. I can't seem to have my left forearm stick to the wall as I have stiff shoulder. I also have uneven shoulders when doing dips. Are there any fixes? There's a lot of different mobility exercises that you can do. I mean, like the wall angel. I mean, I'm not exactly sure particularly what you're referring to there, but like some people do shoulder presses leaning up against the wall and try to keep their hands there. And there's different types of movements you can do. Um, Everybody has their own unique movement and flexibility and everything else. So I wouldn't get too hung up on that. But if you are having, problems and uneven shoulders, there are some issues there. I mean, like maybe you just naturally have uneven shoulders, right? Like some people, one shoulder's higher than the other. And if you were to stand up, like you stand up to the best of your ability straight, and you get someone to like look at you square on, or even take a photo of you square on, and then see like is one shoulder higher than the other. In my case, I believe I do have one shoulder higher than the other. I'm because when I see that, sometimes I'm not even sure which one it is, because if I consciously think of it now, it's going to throw it off. But it's something you got to kind of do subconsciously, not looking at yourself in the mirror, right? Like either you set up a camera on your own and videotape yourself or something, or you could get someone to do it for you. But you may have one shoulder that's naturally higher than the other, and that's quite common. It could also be issues due to spinal and neck alignment. One thing that I've been doing recently, and I found it's quite helpful, is I've been visiting a chiropractor. The reason I've been going there actually is because I've got a bad case of carpal tunnel syndrome, and I've been going there to look for some treatment while I'm waiting to see a specialist related to my carpal tunnel syndrome. But I've been going to the chiropractor to just get some work done, because a lot of pain issues that we have revolve around nerve impingements, and they all usually start in the neck, because I mean all the nerves of the body run down your neck and then run to your limbs. So he's been doing a lot of work. Like every time we go there, I mean, he does some neck exercises and massage work, and he always aligns my neck and then works, different nerve exercises down my arms and stuff. But if you've never been to a chiropractor, I would recommend going. And I mean, they could probably help you with some of those things, because some of the impingements and the pain you may be feeling could be related to nerve impingements that are root caused in the back and the neck. And an alignment through a chiropractor may actually help with that. And before I started going to the chiropractor, I was having a lot of neck pain, right? A lot of stiffness, and I was trying to do like neck exercises on my own and everything else, couldn't alleviate the pain. But after a few sessions with the chiropractor, and how they crack your neck, I mean, I know it sounds weird, but when they do it, man, it's like, whoa, it just feels so good. It's almost like cracking your knuckles. It's like you feel that, just the tension like lifted. So I mean, having that done and the exercises really helped. My neck pain is totally eliminated. Like since I've been going, it's gone right after just a couple sessions. So something you might want to look into. I mean, they may be able to help you with that, or at least offer some specific suggestions where they're seeing you and working on you in person. Like they may be able to offer some better advice than I can by trying to answer and diagnose this from a comment without even seeing you're seeing you in person. So that's what I would recommend, right? I think, yeah, visiting a chiropractor could probably help with that. But just to let you know, uneven shoulders is actually a common thing for a lot of people. Okay. Wait, what else we got there? Ralph is joining in and says, I'm planning to do push-ups and bodyweight squats at home. Can I do this every day? Should I skip a day for rest like you do with machines, etc.? If you've never done it before, probably start like set a goal to do it every other day, right? That's what I would recommend. Just start off small. So, just one day you do your push-ups and squat workout, and then next day you can probably go for a walk, right? Like if you're looking for like a very simple get back in shape home workout that takes like no equipment at all, this is what you could do. You could do push-ups and squats, maybe even throw in some ab work or different mobility work in there. But even if you want to keep it super simple, push-ups and squats is fine, right? You don't need to overload yourself with too much too soon. Push-ups and squats, and then the next day, just get outside and go for a walk. Then the following day, push-ups and squats. The next day, get outside and go for a walk. And this would be a great way to get in some daily exercise and keep it super simple, no equipment required, and just build the habit of doing daily exercise. Like every single day, you got to do something, right? And alternating the strength training one day and the cardio the next. Strength training being the push-ups and the squats. cardio being getting outside and going for a walk, that's a great way to incorporate both forms of exercise in a very complementary fashion. Because if you keep doing push-ups day after day after day, yes, you could probably get some great results, but what could often happen, and very often does happen, is within a few weeks of doing that, you're probably going to have some strain in the shoulders. Your elbows are probably going to start to hurt. Like you're going to get some repetitive movement strain. And this is so common. Like you see online all the time, these 30-day push-up challenges where people say, hey, do 100 push-ups a day for 30 days or whatever. Some of these daily push-up challenges, like they pop up on all the fitness groups on Facebook and online everywhere. And then you'll see people posting their daily push-up video or whatever, just try and say, hey, I did my push-ups today, right? Doing my push-up challenge. And like, God love them. I mean, I respect them for what they're doing. And I mean, I know I respect the idea of what it is, but that daily movement where like day after day after day, you're doing that same thing. And you don't want to stop because, you're committed to the challenge and everything else. And you don't want to like have the X on the calendar where, oh, I skipped a day or anything like that. And you feel guilty. Like, listen to your body. Like if something feels like if something is sore and feels painful, like it's okay to give your body rest, to let it rest, recover, and grow, right? The rest, recover, and grow part is just as important as the stimulate part, right? Like you need it all. Right? You just can't go in there and stimulate and break it down all the time. You need the rest, recover, grow part, right? The recovery is just as important as the stimulation. In fact, you could argue it's more important because, you can train yourself all you like, but if you don't allow for the recovery process, nothing's going to happen. So that's why I'm not a huge fan of these daily exercises where people say, I'm going to do this every day, no matter what, because it usually leads to repetitive movement strain and aches and pains and injuries. And like prime example, one of the guys we just chatted with earlier, John, he's talking about like he's getting elbow tendonitis from doing grippers. And, he didn't mention how often he's using the grippers, but I'm sure it's too much too soon, right? Like that's usually the root cause of aches, pains, and injuries is just doing too much too soon. So if you do too much too soon, even if it's push-ups and squats, you can get aches, pains, and injuries. So every other day is a great way to start because you're giving yourself that full 48 hours of rest and recovery in between those workouts. And that can be enough to allow for the recovery and the growth process so that you approach each workout feeling fresh and avoid the drawbacks of the repetitive movement strain and aches, pains, and the injuries. And then, of course, on the off days, then you can get outside and go for a walk, which is a totally different form of exercise. And it's still allowing you to keep the exercise habit alive. And this is what I do. Like I weight train one day, cardio the next, weight train one day, cardio the next. So I'm still exercising every day, but it's different forms of exercise, different stress. Like the cardio day is not as intense or as stressful as the weight training day. So it's more along the lines of active recovery, if you will. Whereas the weight training, that's high intensity. Like that's placing stress and demands on the joints, tendons, ligaments, and the muscles. You're breaking the muscle tissue down. Whereas the cardio is more active recovery, fat burning, blood flow circulation. It's more gentle exercise. So that's what I would recommend to keep yourself active and to maximize the progress and just to enjoy the whole process. We've got Baby Boomer out there saying, I wish I could out-train a bad diet. If I could, I would. I work out every day and then head to the buffet. I've been doing this all summer. Ooh. That's a good point, right? You cannot out-train a bad diet. And, buffets... I mean, depending on the buffet, like you can make it work, but you got to exert some self-control there, right? Like fill up on the protein and veggies first, and of course, minimizing the poor food choices. But the problem with the buffet is it's so easy, to just grab something you shouldn't. And I mean, and then we have the temptation there to think like, especially the all-you-can-eat buffets, like I want to get my money's worth, so I'm going up for another round, even though I'm satisfied and I'm satiated with, one plate of food. Like I got to go up for another plate to get my money's worth at the buffet. Like you almost feel cheated or ripped off if you don't leave the buffet feeling absolutely gorged and stuffed. Like that's the mindset. And sometimes people even have like a competition to see how many rounds to the buffet can you make. So like I'm not a fan of buffets, right? I, around here anyway, like since the whole pandemic hit, buffets have been basically eliminated. Like I think there's a few places they're getting back to doing them again, but they're very rare. Like obviously before the pandemic, there was buffets everywhere, all you can eat buffets, but now it's totally changed, and a lot of places don't offer it anymore. It's just order off the menu and stuff. Like I've literally have not been to a buffet in I can't remember when. Well, I can remember when. It was before the pandemic, right? That's the last time I've been to a buffet. But in the last 2 years ish, I've not been to a buffet because it's just kind of like it's scratched off the map here. But I know in some parts of the world, like nothing's changed. So, but yeah, it's a danger zone, right? Buffets are red zones. You got to approach them with caution. Who else we got there? We got TDK joining in. Says, I want to ask you a question. I started the gym a month ago. I'm 16. I'm feeling super good, but there is a problem. I can't stay on a consistent diet, and I feel they are so complicated. Can you help? Yes. I mean, we've kind of addressed this already. First off, you've only been going to the gym for a month. I mean, pat yourself on the back. You're going to the gym for a month. Like, that's huge. Congratulations. Don't try and do too much too soon. Like focus on that. Like keep it simple. One of the problems is people try and overcomplicate things. And if you try to do too much too soon, you get overwhelmed, frustrated, and quit. Like it's okay to keep it simple. It's okay to have a very simple, easy plan that you do day after day after day, or do it consistently. Like something that is simple, that's done consistently, is going to outproduce the most complex program that's done inconsistently. So don't like go following fitness YouTubers and Instagrammers and everyone who's posting up full day of eating, and they're listing out their macros and their meal split and their supplements and all the shit that they're taking. And you're like, oh my God, how can I do that? Like, you don't need to. Seriously, don't get caught up in that. All you got to focus on is try to be better than you were before. That's it. Better than you were before. So I'm going to give you some practical, simple stuff. If you're currently drinking soda pop, just try to drink more water. Like that's better than you were before, right? If you're not eating protein, and when I say protein, I mean like chicken, meat, fish, eggs, dairy, protein. Like if you're not sure what protein is, you can Google search it or whatever. Or you can download the Total Fitness Bodybuilding app. There's a whole section in there on nutrition that breaks down like protein, carbs, fat, and good sources of each, and all that, the fundamentals of nutrition, like nutrition made simple, if you will. You can download that in the Total Fitness Bodybuilding app, which is available through, you can get the link right on my website, leehayward.com, but it's available for both Android as well as Apple. But bottom line, if you're not getting protein with each meal, focus on getting a serving of protein with each meal. Like don't overthink it. Like just saying, hey, I'm going to get protein with each meal. Focus on that. Eat more fruits and vegetables, right? Like don't overthink it. Like don't get hung up in thinking, oh, I need macronutrient timing and special split, and I got to go, blah blah blah, and just better than you were before. That's it. And focus on small things, and look at the foundation. Like, are you eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Like, are you having 3 squares a day? All right. If you're not, make sure you're getting 3 squares a day. Because I know like a lot of people wake up and they say, oh, I'm not hungry, or I'm too busy. So they skip breakfast. And then they'll grab whatever's on special at the cafeteria for lunch. And then they're famished by the time they get home, and they just pig out at dinner. Like there's no structure, right? Like skip breakfast or grab a coffee, lunch, whatever's on special at the cafeteria, dinner, whatever the wife cooks, or in your case, whatever mom cooks. Like there's no structure. It's just wing it every meal, every day. Right? It's just like, that's it. If you're in that situation, try to put some structure in there. Make sure to have a breakfast, right? Make sure to have a solid lunch. Make sure to have a solid dinner. Like just be better than you were before, and don't make it any more complicated than that. Start with simplicity first. And then as you start to make a little bit of progress, like you can always improve upon it. Like you can always add to it, but don't try to do too much too soon. Don't try to run before you can walk, right? Because a big problem a lot of people make is they go from zero to hero. It's almost like trying to dive headfirst into the deep end of the swimming pool before you know how to swim, right? That's a recipe for disaster. Like, do not do that when it comes to your training and nutrition. And that's why so many people fail, is because they're seeing all this stuff online and they're reading about it and seeing what other people are doing and how complicated, and they think I got to go from nothing to, hero, zero to hero overnight, and nobody can make that jump, right? You have to build it up incrementally in baby steps. I mean, just think of everything in life. Like, everything happens incrementally in baby steps. Like, think of a prime example, like school is starting up, right? We're in September. Think of a child starting kindergarten. Like, they're just going through the basics. They're learning their ABCs. They're learning how to count to 10. They're learning 1+1. They're learning their colors and then, like this basics. They're learning the alphabet and all that. They're not algebra and calculus and history and biology and all this kind of stuff, because they need to learn how to read and write and count and simple stuff. Like, they need to lay the foundation first. Same when it comes to nutrition. Lay the foundation first. Keep it simple. And then as you progress, we can add to it and we can make it better as you go. But don't try and be perfect from the start, because that's a recipe for disaster, and it's a recipe for just frustration and overwhelm and ultimately burnout and quit. Right? So simple stuff, better than you were before. Right? And if you do need some help with that, again, I've got some ebooks over on my website, leehayward.com. There's one there called Bodybuilding Nutrition Made Simple. You can download a copy of that. It's a free PDF download. Or you can also get a copy of the Total Fitness Bodybuilding app. The link to that's over on my website, leehayward.com. That will help as well, because there's a whole section in there on nutrition, and there's some sample recipes. But again, don't try and master it all from day one. Just be focused on better than you were before, right? Ingrain that. That's your mantra. Better than you were before. That's it. What else we got? Baby Boomer saying, I've been doing your yin and yang training style and it works great. Awesome. Good stuff. Top Prof, I think that's the name here. Top Prof saying, the best thing you ever taught me back in 2005 was the 20 rep squats. I've used it time and time again and it works great. Cool. I'm glad you like that one. I mean, that is an intense program. It's a very simple program, but a very effective one. And I have utilized that several times over the years. And I got to say, every time I have done it, I've made great progress. And you know what? Speaking of that, I think that's probably going to be one of my programs that I'm going to follow over the winter, especially like as the outdoor cycling season starts to wind down. Like, I'm right into cycling now, so I don't want to destroy my legs with 20 rep squat workouts multiple times a week. But that would be a great winter workout. I'm thinking that could really help to take my training and cycling to another level over the winter. I'm going to utilize that one again. But I've made a YouTube video covering it. I also got a blog post outlining it. Just do a search for Lee Hayward 20 rep squats and you should find it. But it's simple, but it works. And for full transparency, I didn't invent this thing. And even in the program, or even in the video and the blog post, I didn't invent it. I utilized it. The program been around for over 100 years. Like, who's it? There was a book by Iron Mind where they talked about it. That's where I learned about the 20 rep squat program. It's a book called Super Squats that Iron Mind put out back in the 80s. And I've got a copy of that book, and that's where I first learned about it. But even then, like, they wrote a book about it in the 80s, but they were just rehashing programs that have been around from back in the early 1900s. So, like, this whole idea of the 20 rep squat program, squats and milk, they used to call it back in the day. And the reason why it was called squats and milk, because milk back in the day was the old school, old timers protein drink of choice, because protein powder wasn't as readily available, but it was a great way to supplement your diet with extra calories and extra protein, was to drink milk. So squats and milk is what they used to call it back in the day. And again, that program has been around for literally over 100 years. I mean, it's one of those things. If it lasts the test of time, you know it's good. What else we got there? Riley's joining in and says, "How do you deal with all the laundry from working out? One of the main excuses why I don't exercise." That's a poor freaking excuse if you ask me. Like, how do you deal with the laundry of just day to day stuff? Because chances are, if you wear clothes, you wash it out, hopefully, on a fairly regular basis. So, like your t shirt and shorts, or your t shirt and track pants, or whatever the heck you wear to the gym, you throw it in the laundry with all the other crap that you wear. Like that's what a washing machine is for, right? Like just throw it in the freaking laundry, put some suds in, voila, the machine does its magic, and then you throw it in the dryer, and dude, like it ain't I don't know, man, like that. Like that's looking for an excuse. Oh, I don't want to work out because I'll have to do laundry. Like shit, you got to do laundry anyway. It's just like what's one more T-shirt thrown into the pile, or what's one more right uh, pair of workout shorts, or like, dude, that's that's not even an issue. Like throw it in the freaking washing machine. That's it. What else we got there? We got Mark joining in from Tucson, Arizona. Welcome, Mark. We've got Andrew joining in. It says, anything I can do to correct shin splints when walking for a while? It's brutal, causes a lot of pain after a while. Shin splints from walking, that's it's I'm not unheard of, but it's kind of more rare because walking is less intense and everything else than running. Usually people get shin splints from running, but I guess you could get it from walking as well, obviously. Proper footwear will definitely help. And also, you can focus on some specific exercises to help strengthen that area, like exercises for the front of the shins, the tibia, right? Like I have a calf training video that I did a couple of years ago. Again, just do a search for Lee Hayward calf training tips or something like that. Um, when I post the replay of this, I'll share it in the. I'll do it now. Just a second. Where is it? I'm going to put the link in the video chat there because I know if I start doing this now, I'll probably forget later. So I'll do it now. Calf training. Let's just see what comes up there. I got a whole bunch of calf workouts, and there's one specific one that I want to share with you. It's called 5 Exercises to Grow Stubborn Calf Muscles. It's one that I did at Critical Bench a few years ago. Let me just give you the link there. That video, we actually cover the topic, myself and Coach Chris from Critical Bench. We cover calf training and stuff like that. And we actually cover some exercises you can do for the tibia, which indirectly will help with shin splints. So there's a link. I just posted it down there in the bottom of the chat window. So Andrew, I believe that's who's posting or asking this one. Go check out that video. That will help with some specific exercises you can do for it. But one thing that I would recommend as well, shorter walks. Probably try walking at a slower pace initially, especially if you're trying to build up your work capacity. Like start off small and build up gradually. Because just like any exercise, like you can jump into too much walking too soon and create problems, i.e., the shin splints that you're experiencing. So, like, just literally back off the volume and the intensity of the walks. Walk less distance and a slower pace until you can do so comfortably where there's no aggravation, and then gradually start to build up the volume and the intensity for the walking. Another thing you definitely want to look into is your footwear. What are you walking in? Like if you're walking in some old worn out sneakers or flip flops or something that's got like jack shit foot support, you might want to upgrade your footwear and have a nice pair of walking shoes or something that's got some support and cushioning there. And if you need some help with that, then go to an athletic foot store and tell them what you're looking for, and they'll help to sort you out. But get yourself a decent pair of footwear, because anytime you're walking or running or whatever, footwear is very important and can be the root cause of a lot of problems, knee pain and shin splints and all that. But that video and proper footwear should definitely help. What's your general diet this is a question from Mark saying, what's your general diet philosophy? How do you feel about plant-based eating? Have you seen the Game Changers movie? Thanks. All right. I have. I've watched the Game Changers. I've watched all, well, I can't say all, but I've watched a lot of pro vegan documentaries. Back several years ago, like in the around 2013, 2014 or somewhere around there, there was a ton of pro vegan documentaries coming out on Netflix. Forks Over Knives, there was a whole bunch of other ones. And like even around the 2000 2008-ish onwards, that's when I really started to become more aware of the whole plant-based eating, like, and I've met a lot of people who were involved in eating plant-based and stuff. And then you start to see more of these documentaries and stuff like that. I mean, obviously, don't get me wrong, plant-based eating's been around as long as eating itself, right? But it started to become like more mainstream and things like that. So I took an interest in it. Like I started watching a lot of these pro vegan documentaries and stuff, and met people who are following, plant-based diets. And of course, you get around someone who's been following a plant-based diet and they'll swear that it's the best thing since sliced bread. And of course, it has to be sprouted grain, vegan bread, whatever. But you get my point. Like they always talk so highly of it. Oh, this is wonderful. And you know what? I tried it, right? My wife and I, we said, you know what? Let's give this an honest effort. Let's try it. So we did. We went full on plant-based vegan, and we did it, and jumped in head first into the deep end, right? We went full on. First off, it was raw vegan. We weren't even eating cooked food. We were eating all raw plant-based food, and we did that for about a month. And it was a great detox, a great cleanse, if you will. And after a while of that, we started, we need to have a bit more variety and calories in our diet. So we started to incorporate cooked plant-based food, but still all vegan. And we did that for several months. And I mean, it it was an interesting experience because I did see some benefits from incorporating a lot more vegetables and fruits and just healthy plant-based foods in my diet. Like I did clean up my diet a lot, because before that, I got to be honest, there was a lot of, not so good foods in my eating plan, a lot of processed foods and stuff like that, and a lot of just crap. So by switching to the plant-based food, I just naturally started eating better. I was eating unprocessed foods, right? And of course, where I was trying to go vegan, we cut out a lot of the regular foods that you would normally get, the processed foods. So I mean, like it was quite a big change, and we did see some initial progress. But what I found when it comes to my workout performance, right? Like physically, I felt fine, right? I mean, I could function by. I was satiated from the meals and everything else, and I felt fine. But what I found from a strength and performance aspect in the gym, like I wasn't getting a pump with my workouts, even though I was eating a ton of carbohydrates. I was eating a lot of calories. Like I wasn't purposely creating a calorie deficit, right? I was eating a ton of food, eating until stuffed every single meal. And of course, it's all carbohydrate based plant food. So there was no shortage of carbs or glycogen, but I couldn't get a pump in the gym, and my strength was plateauing. Like, I mean, I wasn't making any gains. And in fact, I even struggled to maintain the strength that I had before. And it was just a weird sensation. Like I'd work out and it was just like, like there's nothing there. Like I couldn't get a pump. Right. It just was the weirdest feeling. Like you go and you pump up your arms, train to failure. And it's like, they just felt flat afterwards. And, same with every exercise. Like I just felt flat and depleted. And I found that I was losing weight, but I wasn't getting any leaner. So that was kind of like, okay, I'm losing some lean mass here. Like I'm not getting the same level of performance in the gym. My strength and my muscle mass is suffering here. So I started to, I said, okay, I'm going to go a little less extreme. I'm not going to go full on vegan. Let's go vegetarian. So let's start adding in some eggs and dairy. So I did that. I added in like, well, first off, I started just adding in like some whey protein, adding in some eggs, just some simple stuff like that. Felt a little bit better, right? I said, okay, so plant based plus the protein and the eggs. Then I added in some more dairy products, like some Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, things like that. Felt a bit better. And it's like, okay, this is interesting. I said, what if I go pescatarian? Because there's all these different levels, right? You got vegan, and you got vegetarian and pescatarian and ovo lacto vegetarian, like all the different levels. And people make up these stupid dietary rules, right? So we said, okay, how about we add dairy, eggs, and fish? Started to feel even better again, like workout performance, started to get a pump in there. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to start eating a healthy diet that's balanced. So meat and fish and vegetables and just like protein and veggies, right? Just natural, unprocessed foods. And I felt fantastic. So like that's my diet philosophy now. It's just based around natural, unprocessed food. So I get protein and I get my veggies, and that's what I focus on. And I've learned through trial and error and going through all kinds of different diet strategies that cutting out food groups is not the secret. Like a lot of people, like back in the day, it was like, okay, well, fat makes you fat. So as long as you don't eat fat, you can't get fat. People started eating more carbohydrates, and then like obesity rates started to skyrocket. Like that's not the case. And then people went the other extreme, saying, well, it's not the fat that makes you fat, it's the carbs that make you fat. So like, avoid the carbs. And everyone started going, the Atkins and the low carb and the keto and all that kind of made a big spike. So, and of course it can work, but there's a lot of drawbacks to that as well. And then we see in the whole vegan, the plant-based. Well, it's not the fat, it's not the carbs, it's that pesky old animal protein. So you cut out the animal protein and you'll make progress. No, it's not cutting out food groups. It's just eating the best of those food groups, right? Natural, unprocessed foods and in the right amounts. So that's my philosophy. I mean, and I honestly have not seen this amazing strength and athletic performance that they talk about, like in the movie Game Changers. And I think a lot of that is bullshit. They're just flat out bullshit. Like how they said, oh, someone went vegan and I can't remember. It's been a while since I've seen the movie, but there was a scene there where they're talking about some female athlete who said like she added some ridiculous strength to her leg press since going vegan. Like, I think if she made some ridiculous strength to her leg press, it's probably because she started training the leg press better, right? Like sometimes you can do things in spite of something and not because of something, right? Maybe she improved her diet and exercise habits in general, and it just kind of correlated that was improving her diet and exercise habits is when she switched to the vegan diet, and that's what improved her strength, not necessarily the vegan diet or the lack of meat. And a great quote that I want to share with you, and this is one that I heard from Dr. John Berardi. It's what was it like? Or was it Dr. John Berardi? Who was it? I can't remember now. I'm getting my references mixed up. But it's not the lack of meat that makes a vegetarian or vegan diet healthy. It's the abundance of vegetables. And not sure. It might have been Berardi. I'm not sure who that was from now. But anyway, I'm brain farting here. But the lack of meat is not what makes the diet healthy. It's the abundance of natural, unprocessed foods, the abundance of fruits and vegetables. Because you could eat a plant-based diet and eat like absolute crap. I'll give you an example. Like you can go down the cookie aisle. You can go down the chip aisle. Like I can eat hydrogenated vegetable oil, and I can eat high fructose corn syrup, and I can eat potato chips, and I can eat cookies, and I can eat snack crackers and all kinds of stuff. I can eat white refined sugar. Like all these things are vegan. There's no meat in there, but it doesn't make it healthy, right? Like just because something has no meat doesn't mean that it's healthy. Right? You can still eat a very poor diet that's vegan. It's about making the best choices and eating a well-balanced diet. And from a practical point of view, there's a lot of nutritional value in animal-based foods. Like nutrition density, there's more nutrition density in meat than there is in plants. Right? I'm not saying that you should only eat meat, like the whole carnivore theory, but you want the balance of both. Right? You want a well-balanced diet. And it's so simple when I say it, like, hey, eat a well-balanced diet. Like, duh, no shit, Sherlock, of course, right? But we overcomplicate it. Like people get in there and start muddling through it and trying to overthink it and overanalyze it and overcomplicate it. Just get back to basics. Eat a well-balanced diet, natural unprocessed foods from all the different food sources, animal and plants, right? And when you do that, the body just works well. Like there's no imbalances. There's no low blood sugar and there's no lack of protein and nutrients and stuff like that. It's just everything works well. And I found that myself. Like when I eat a well-balanced diet, and I do so consistently, I feel better. I get better workouts. I sleep better. I function better. Like everything, it just, it just works better. So it's a long-winded answer, but that's my theory on diet and my opinion on the plant-based eating. It ain't the lack of meat; it's the abundance of natural, unprocessed food that makes a diet healthy. And with that being said, I'm going to clue it up because we've been going for an hour and 20 minutes, and I only promised an hour. So, guys, hopefully you enjoyed the video chat. I'm going to clue this up. Okay, there's a couple more questions just came right in there. I'm going to address them really quick. There's one there saying, I have a cold. What's the quickest way to get back after a cold? I have a video covering how should you work out when sick, or let me just see what it's called. It's an old one, but it'll cover. This is just a second. I'm going to post the link there for you because I try to over deliver, and I know I always over deliver, right? There we go. This one is for you, Mr. Man from Earth. That's his username, actually. The video, I just posted a link there. It's the last one I just posted in the chat. It's actually a video I made talking about training when you have a cold or flu and, how to get over that. So that will answer that question. Lee Dunnigan says, are all microwave meals processed meals? Technically, in a way, well, there is some processing to make it a microwavable meal, but it doesn't mean it's an unhealthy meal. Like you can get some healthy microwave meals that are based around meat and vegetables and good complex carbs. So yeah, you just really need to look at the labels, look at the nutritional information and all that stuff and make the best choices. But I have had, I don't do it often, but I have had, the frozen dinners, and sometimes you can get some healthy fast food in there, right? Like again, you got to look at what's there. The President's Choice, that's a common one, the common brand here in Canada. They have some beef and broccoli and rice meals, and I've utilized some of those for quick meals on the run. Some other ones, like there's chicken and vegetable stir fry. So it might be chicken and vegetables and stir fried over bed of rice. Like they're not the best, and of course they're not the tastiest, but you can't beat the convenience, right? So like I have on occasion had microwave meals, for healthy fast food, if you will, right? So yeah, you can look into some of them. They're not all bad, right? You just can really look at the label, look at the ingredients, and just make sure you're making the best choices. One of the good things I will say about these pre-packaged microwavable meals, portion control, right? Like they definitely help with that. CB is asking, he says C7, C6, C7, and maybe T1 aren't very stable. Any ideas to stabilize those areas so I can get back to lifting again? I've been to doctors and physiotherapists with no help. I want to go into my 60s lifting again. You're going to have to go get some second opinions there. You need to talk to someone like a chiropractor or physio or someone, and the level of help you can get from a physiotherapist or a chiropractor depends on the individual, right? So just because you haven't gotten help with the current ones you've been to see, I would recommend asking around. And if you need to, ask around at the local gym or even at the local supplement store or somewhere, in the athletic arena, and like even the gym. I'm sure if you go to your local gym and you ask around, like who's a good chiropractor, who's a good physiotherapist, like who's someone who's used to working with athletes, and you explain what you're going through, they could hopefully hook you up with someone. Because like you need some hands-on advice. If you've got back and neck issues and all that kind of stuff, or lumbar issues or whatever you're dealing with, like you need to see someone in person to see what's going on there. Like I can't diagnose anything from a YouTube comment without seeing you in person. And I'm not a physio or a chiropractor or nothing like that. I'm a fitness and nutrition coach. I do have a lot of years of experience in that area, but not with those specific issues. So you really need to see someone. And I would recommend a good chiropractor who's used to dealing with athletes. And I think that would be a a worthwhile investment to go see. And like I've been dealing with a chiropractor who's used to working with athletes, and that's how I found about it. I asked around, like I got recommendations from people who are used to working with athletes. And if you get that, that will definitely help. All right, guys, I'm going to close it up. I actually covered all the questions. So that's it. We're cutting it off. If you post another question, I'm not going to answer it. So we're cluing it up. Hour and 25 minutes in. There we go. Hopefully you enjoyed the video chat. And if you did, and you have any questions or comments or feedback, anything, and you want to reach out, feel free to email me. I've got my email and contact information in the description below. Or if you have any questions about what we covered, and maybe you want to elaborate on some of the stuff here, or you want to get some further help with fitness and nutrition or something customized to you specifically, feel free to reach out to me. Again, we can have an email discussion back and forth. And if you want, we can even schedule in for a strategy session call, right? I do offer that over on my websites where you can book in for a strategy session call and see if you can get some help with a customized fitness and nutrition program. So if that's something you're interested in, open up the description below this video and, like I say, reach out. And in the meantime, have yourself a fantastic evening and a fantastic weekend. And I will talk to you. It won't be next week. Next week, I'm actually going to be heading out of town. I'm doing a sportif ride. It's going to be a big group bicycle ride. And I'm actually heading out of town Friday to head to that because it's going to be next Saturday. So there won't be a live chat next Friday, but I may make up for it afterwards. Might be doing something later in the week. Like I did that last week. Actually, couldn't make the live Friday thing, so I made up for it on another day. I might do that next week. But just a heads up for all the regulars. Next Friday, there's not going to be a live chat on Friday at the regular scheduled time because of that. But we'll make it up whether it's the following week or another day, and I'll keep you posted with the schedule on that. But in the meantime, have yourself a great one, and we'll talk the next time. All right, take care. Over and out.